Welcome to Nerdsplaining Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Da Silva. With me, as always, is my co-host, Jose Romero.
Happy Nerd Day, everybody. We're back. It's been a while. A few weeks. We had some technical difficulties. I thought I forgot to tell you about with the first video we did a couple weeks ago. It didn't. Yeah, it kind of all got screwed up.
Gee.
Yeah,
Some real gems.
only half. Only half. We did
there.
like a two-part. Only half was right. And it just there's no context to the second video. Whatever. I didn't bother the fans with that. But we had some issues, and then scheduling and yada yada. But we're back. We're back, and
I'm blaming the Matrix.
We're gonna blame Kevin Feige because everything else is might as well. Everything else is being dumped on him, rightfully so. But
it's weird because South Park just finished blaming Kathleen Kennedy, but we're blaming Kevin Feige.
Yeah,
it's a lot of blame.
We're playing Disney. We're playing Disney. Yeah, how about that?
We're playing Disney.
We're all encompassing. We're playing Disney because Disney is. I don't know. It's not going well
when
for
you
Disney.
own everything, you also get all the
You
blame
get all the
for
blame.
everything.
It's not going well for them. It's not going well for Star Wars. It's not going well for Marvel. We'll get into all that. Big story that came out that kind of gave some revelations to stuff that you and I have been talking about for years. Like not years, but maybe a couple years. Who knows, right? Of stuff that we knew was going on, and all that came to life for the most part. But that's a good listen. It's not all bad. There's some good stuff in there. A couple of good things, like things like Loki, which we'll get to.
Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? Yes. Is that light far away than we would like? So, maybe.
Yeah.
So,
can Marvel be fixed? Of course.
Of course.
Everything can be fixed. DC can be fixed, right? As shitty as they've been,
Listen,
right? It all can be fixed.
The best analogy, Marvel is like Iron Man. You can fix the armor. Like, we can make a better version of the armor. We can learn from the mistakes. We can compensate for the freezing. We can make those adjustments. But how fast? Can you do it before the Shatari attack?
Right.
That's the question.
That's the key. And listen, and let's get into it, right? Because listen, there's a lot of little stories that kept dropping, right? And we'll get to all those, right? We'll focus on a few, not all of them. But there's a big article that came out, and we had the book that came out.
Variety.
Yeah, Variety had the story, and there was a book came out a little bit ago. Talking about a lot of different talking points about Marvel, but Variety is really focusing on the issues that Marvel has had over the last few years, right? With the Phase 4 or 5, whatever the case is. There's a lot of stuff in there, right? It's like, damn, issues with executives getting fired and rewrites here and this and that, and they want to bring back the old Avengers to see if that works as far as Robert Downey and.
That's the worst idea I've heard so far.
I was going to ask you about that before we get. Listen, I think it'd be cool to see just one time. Hey, but honestly, let's be real. That's a big mistake. That's the last thing they need to do.
It should be a cameo and all of them get killed off immediately. Just let you know, like, you got what you thought you wanted. That's not it. Like, that's the only way that would work for me.
Yeah, I that was so ticket. That I get. I understand that from financial standpoint. You put Robert Downey and Chris Evans. I'm sure people are gonna go crazy and go watch the movie. I get it. I do. But that's just a band-aid. It really is. That's not the answer. There's a lot of stuff they have to do, and they talked about all this. The project, which you and I talked about, right? How many projects they just been spaghetti on the wall, right? Let's see what sticks. And they talked about Shang-Chi and even Eternals being kind of let's test things out as a part of being part of a plan, which we knew the plan was whatever, not existent, or I don't know what was going on with them, that we hadn't seen, that we knew we got accustomed to from the first 3 phases. So all kinds of stuff, and Feige's been dumped on.
I think that was the biggest mistake Marvel did, was thinking, oh, we've made it. We don't need to plan anymore. You always need to plan.
Always.
It's the reason why the A-Team works, because they always have a plan.
You got to improv here and there, but a little bit. But overall, and we've seen Star Wars go through this shit, and it sucks because Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy, I always thought of them as complete opposites, where Kevin Feige was not a great producer individually. He just wasn't. His track record is spotty at best, but he was a great executive. He is a great executive. Kathleen Kennedy was an incredible producer, all-time great producer. Her track record speaks for itself, amazing. But as an executive, she sucks. And now Kevin Feige's in her boat at this point, where his executive prowess has taken a hit because it's just the quality's not been there. And there's a lot of things that we'll mention, a couple of things in particular I'll get to in a second, but that kind of shine a light of what's been going on. And at the end of the day, it's too much on his plate. It's just too much on his plate. I need to scale back. I know Bob Iger talked about that. Let's see if that's the case. But I want to start with something a little bit positive before we get to the negative stuff. Because I thought this was going to be part of the shit we were going to talk about.
All right.
But it's not. It could be. but it's not. And let's talk about the Echo trailer, which dropped recently. Okay, because you and I
Yes.
talked about it, and it's just a lot of bad things have come to light with this show. And listen,
So much bad
right,
press
bad press.
behind the
There's been
show.
production issues with this and rewrites and whatever, and it's being dumped on in January, which is a dumping ground for crap, right, for studios and all that. And it's being released all at one time. All it's only 5 episodes, which is interesting. Being dumped all at the same time. We'll get to that in a second. But the trailer came out, and I just want to talk about the trailer first. We
Sure,
thought
let's
about
do it.
shit. We expected shit.
Yeah.
I like this trailer, dude. I can't lie. The trailer was pretty good,
Yeah, so did
right?
I. This looked like a really fun trailer. First of all, you can't 90% of what makes this trailer awesome is the Vincent D'Onofrio Kingpin monologue. There's
Yes.
something about hearing him talk slowly because of what we've seen his character be from the old Daredevil series. Like, you're just like, it sounds like he's about to kill somebody. Like, he's just that slow mental, like, ever since I known you,
Yeah, and this is the
you
Daredevil.
were a
Yeah, this is
child. I'm like,
no
oh,
Hawaiian shirt. This is the antithesis of what we got in Hawkeye, right? It really is.
absolutely,
This
absolutely.
harkens
It's
back to what I was saying.
way closer
Yes,
to the Netflix Kingpin. And there's even a shot in the trailer, a blink you missed it, Daredevil. Daredevil who's jumping backwards through like a
yeah.
a window frame thing, like a construction thing to get away from Echo. I was like, that looks cool. It looks like he's wearing the
The
original
red
red
suit.
suit.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
I
yeah.
I almost have this weird feeling, and maybe it's because I'm a dummy optimist. Maybe that's it. I don't know, but I have this weird feeling that all the bad press is because Marvel thought they needed to do something lighter, like towards Hawkeye, and it was coming out closer to Netflix, and they're like, "Oh, this is so bad. This is not what he wanted." When it might be the thing we all been waiting for.
It's possible. Listen, this is a mature rating, which surprised me, which is cool.
Which is why I think too is like, oh, it's got a lot of problems. They're trying to lighten it up, but it's too dark.
Maybe. I mean, and
We
who?
want
And
dark.
listen, at the end of the day, don't get me wrong. I still, if I was a betting man, I still say this is gonna suck, just because the strategy of dumping it all is still there, and that says something about what they feel about the show, right? Listen, I've seen a lot of great trailers of crap. So you're gonna
Last Jedi had great trailers.
true, as did maybe Rise of Skywalker, with even earlier, later on that is Secret Invasion, sticking to MCU, very good
Secret
trailer,
Invasion had great
and
trailers.
that show was subpar, and I'm being nice, right?
Which, by the way, I gotta say, real fast. I know we shouldn't be in the business of promoting other YouTubers because we want you to watch us.
Okay.
But there's a guy called Nando on YouTube, and he did a reconstruction of his version of how Secret Invasion should have played out. I don't agree with all of it, but there's like 90% of it that I was like, this would have been so much better, and it would have cost nothing. It would just been a rewrite. It's insane, but you're right. It's exactly that. It's like we great trailers that did not live up to
Right,
what it
and
was
this
on the
very well
show.
could be that. This could be where all we saw was probably the first episode. It's very possible. We've seen them do that before. But
Very
I'm
possible.
just talking about the trailer and what we were given. The tone was cool. I mean, if I hadn't heard anything about Echo, I would have been excited. I just can't
Absolutely. Feel the
because
same way.
listen, this was still part of the
Everything we heard
right.
about
That's what we
Echo.
heard, and this is still part of all this shit and piled up that we've heard that happened in the article and all that the last couple of years. So I don't know.
But I will say, and this is
Mhm.
not to jump the gun into another subject, but based on our previous reviews, the unaired reviews from technical issues of Loki, if this is on par with what Loki's been so far, it makes me more excited. If this would have been like, if we would have seen this trailer right after, they would have had no hope for it. Like, it's garbage. Like, it's just another false
Sure.
promise that they're not going to live up to. But maybe. So yeah, it's because it looks it's a really well put together
It
trailer.
could still be crap, and
Yeah.
I still don't have a lot, and I'm not
Absolutely.
excited about it because I'm just
Absolutely.
if it's great, good. I hope it is, but besides it looking good, it gave me some hope because we talked about Daredevil, right? And they scrapped it. I said that I called it from the beginning. This show's going to be terrible, and then it was, right? The Daredevil, and they scrapped it. We're getting a new version of it and new writers, and
I can admit when I'm
yeah,
wrong.
the 9 episodes.
You told me that, and I was like, you got to be optimistic because I'm stupid. And you turned out you're right.
It was garbage. So I'm starting over, which is fine, right? Don't give a shit. Start over. I have no problem with that, right? Fine. Just do it better. But first of all, they just hired a guy from who did the Punisher
Punisher
showrunner.
series.
Okay, now we're and a showrunner, quote unquote. It could be any showrunner. Fine, because they need a
Right.
showrunner, which they don't normally do
Right.
for these shows.
Yes.
Which shows, right? So that's a good sign.
Right.
I really hope seeing this trailer, I'm thinking, man, this is that harkened back to the tone we saw on Netflix. I'm hoping maybe they
Yes.
do that for Daredevil, make it mature, right? Because this is not going to
Uh-huh.
be this is not be won't be part of the big picture MCU, so you don't have to make it
Right.
like that, right? Make it dark. I mean, I would love to see that, and we'll see. And as long as it's not 18 episodes, I'm happy. Again, we'll see what they decide to do with it. But that's good. Listen, Punisher was a great show. I like Punisher. I love John Barenthal on that. So, that's good. There's a little bit of optimism. Amidst all the crap we're going to talk about, there's a little bit of optimism there. There's something there that maybe, just maybe.
And we've talked about this before. It's sort of like you have to be self-aware of the Zack Snyder problem. Just because Batman's dark doesn't mean you have to make the whole universe dark.
Correct.
Daredevil gets to be dark, but that doesn't mean you have to make Spider-Man like Daredevil. There's two different people, two different worlds. Yeah. They can bump into each other, and their differences makes the combination interesting. If they're all the same, who cares?
Right, exactly. And it's okay. Like I've been saying this for a long time. Just give us the TV should be different anyway. Make it dark, whatever. They have immature content on Disney and all that, and you put whatever their access code, whatever. The kids don't watch it. Doesn't affect us, but that's good. Listen, getting a showrunner, that's a huge plus. I really hope they go dark with it. I really do, because now I can get excited by Daredevil. Not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But I am like open to the fact that
There's
maybe
promise.
this will be good. Because at first, you know me, we talked from the get go. I was like, nope, one jump. So let's see. So that's positive. So that's good news. But it's still Loki. But that's not that notwithstanding. Let's get to the shit here, because this is all kinds of stuff's going on. We start with something tiny and small, because I have no idea about Wonder Man, right? I think Yahya Abdul, his full name, who he's going to see in Aquaman,
right?
He was in
Watchmen and Aquaman,
right? He's going to reprise his role as Wonder Man. They talked about it, and it seems like all signs point towards nope, they are scrapping it, which I guess is good. I don't know much about him to really feel one way or another about it. But at least I like the fact that they're scrapping things, because maybe they realize this is nonsense, right?
Here's the thing, Wonder Man, his intro should be like French fries with melted cheese and bacon. It is a great side dish, not the main course.
Sure.
Wonder Man works like that. So if you can't at least make the show as good as French fries with melted cheese and bacon, don't make the show. That's it.
Yeah, but listen, you can still introduce him in another fashion.
No, introduce him, sure. Just don't make a show
right. Exactly. I mean, if he hits, then do a show after the fact, right?
Right.
I mean, we've seen that before, maybe not, but that's a better way to go about it. This character hit, all right, let's spin him off and whatever, and see what happens, right? Spaghetti in the wall after that point, because honestly, even if they didn't scrap it, I would have been excited about this. Let's be honest. Come on, this is Agatha Harkness kind of thing. It really is. Like,
if they would have done it the way I want it, I would be excited about it. But I don't know if they were going to be able to pull that off based on everything else we've seen so far. So I'd rather
shelve it,
because there's an uncertainty. Like right now, you have to go back to literally pointing out into the field and saying the ball's going there, and then knocking that out. If you can't do that, don't do it right now. That's the truth of the matter.
I want to go back to the MCU first. One of the stories that they talked about, and that in relation to Jonathan Majors, of course, who you and I have discussed and his issues and several times, and it just a story that doesn't want to die, and it just keeps going and going. It's the Energizer Bunny of stories, because obviously the trial was supposed to be in September, it got moved to October. The attorneys for defense counsel put a motion to dismiss. That was denied by the judge, so pretty much signifying there is evidence enough to go to trial. Doesn't mean he's guilty, of course. There's evidence to go to trial.
Sure.
And a couple of things. One, did they push it down to November 18th, I think is the new date. Right around when, I think a week after Loki ends, which is interesting. But they also, I know the defense counsel was also trying to suppress information or evidence that was going to come to light in trial, so it wouldn't be made public, which I don't believe they made a ruling yet on that. That's a red flag, because it's something there that could embarrass him or make him look bad or whatever.
I could tell you, okay. I heard something, and I heard the reason is that there may have been an incident with him and his girlfriend in the UK that was reported, but there was never any follow through. So like, there was no like arrest, there was no
That's not good.
nothing. And
Right.
they're saying like there's a history of this, but so it's the kind of thing where it's like, well, there's a history of them being together and having a problem, but once again, not pointing fingers at who was the problem. And based on what his defense attorneys are saying is the truth, it would just double down on her. But you're trying to cast an aspersion without a fact.
It's character, right?
It goes to
character,
tricky.
and
It's real tricky.
There's a pattern. If he did it once, he could
have
done it. So I get it, and it's legitimate evidence. Listen, he did it before, again, right? Or there was a prior incident. Take it for what it's worth. But that being said, it's things that even if he's not innocent, there's stuff that may make him look really bad, right, and embarrassing for the MCU. And going back to the article, they talked about that, where they discussed, even when all this went down back in February, March, they were gonna just just switch gears and go Doctor Doom.
I heard about that.
I don't know if that would have been a good idea either, to be honest with you.
I like the Doctor Doom aspect because we talked about this. Secret Wars is primarily a Doctor Doom story.
Agreed, but they haven't set anything up yet, so it would have been just such a. It just would have been too much of a change, and it just last minute, like this is put this spaghetti in the wall, right? Fine, Majors can't do it.
Sure.
Here's Doctor Doom, but if it's not set up right, it's not going to work. The payoff won't be there, and that's the problem, right? Which is kind of almost happened with Kang. We don't get enough Kang until recent, but that was an issue, and I guess that all signs point that they're probably just going to recast worst case scenario, which I don't think is a big issue, personally, because I don't know.
I mean, the only reason why it's not a big issue to me is because we're living in a world of variants.
Sure.
So they don't all have to look alike.
Of course,
so.
And like I said, it's not like what we've gotten has been great or memorable. Not saying it's not Major's fault, but it is what it is. And Ant-Man didn't do well, and even Loki, and I think the news ratings came out for Loki, not the somber ones, but I think in its opening, it opened like half the audience that the original Loki had. That's not a good sign, right? And I think it's just indicative of people just kind of baiting on Marvel now, because it's just like DC, right? Doesn't matter the quality, it's just they don't care anymore. They're just tired of the same old shit. And as good as Loki is that it's unfortunate that Loki 2 suffers because of everything that's been going on, right? It's just an accumulation of mediocrity and bad films, and it's like, okay, nobody wants to go see Loki now. And again, half the audience. That's not great. That's not good, despite the quality of Loki, which we'll talk about later. So let's see. Listen, the trial comes up in, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. This is going to be entertaining, that's for sure. Here he is.
We shall see.
The Marvels. Let's talk about the Marvels, which is the next film coming out. Oh, man. And this stuff I didn't even know, but I guess the article talked about how the director left the project before it was even finished. A lot of rewrites. Yeah. This is a disaster. This is going to be a disaster. Listen, this when there's smoke, there's fire. When there's fire, there's fire. It's not even smoke now. It's just fire, and it's just going to be a nightmare. It's going to bomb. It's not going to do well. I read some of actually, for some reason, I got misled in something I was watching, and they just spoiled the movie. Not that it was a big deal, but a lot of stuff that just sounded like really shitty. Terrible. But listen, the one interesting thing, the only thing I could really say with this movie is the cameo, which everyone kept talking about, which was spoiled. Potentially.
Right.
And that is, of course, Beast coming back with Kelsey Grammer's version of Beast from X-Men The Last Stand. And I would say it's hard to draw from crap, which is what they're doing, but whatever. So that's interesting, I guess. I don't know. What do you think about that? Like, Beast coming back, and does that make sense? I mean, it's just, I don't know.
Well, I mean, listen. The last time we saw Beast was at the end of Days of Future Past when he was walking Howard.
Yeah, the quick little thing.
So you're like, oh, cool, it's a little Beast thing. That's fun. So, here's the thing. Because there is a strike.
Right.
And if that scene exists, that means it was filmed pre-strike, which means they knew that this was a problem, and they were working actively to try to find a saving grace for this movie. That reassures me more than if they had just filmed it a week ago. See what I'm saying? Like, if they were like, it's going to release, and we need something to get people to stay in seats, and they scrambled to this, I'd be like, this is going to be the worst. The fact that I know it was done months behind makes me more excited, weirdly enough. Because I'm like, okay, you realize the problem, and you took the most break glass in case of emergency way to save it. The fact that you're breaking the glass is a good thing. It's never bad to do the biggest last ditch effort to save a thing.
No, yeah,
If you didn't do it, that's the
yeah, and
problem.
it's just
So,
the fact that they let it leak, it
am
kind of,
I?
kind of, I think, tells you what this movie is going to be like. It really does, because they're trying to get but like even when Superman came out, when Black Adam, right? They leaked that because they wanted
Right.
people butts and seats. They're like, all right, beast,
Absolutely.
beast, beast, because it's just not tracking well,
Right.
and you hear all this crap, and people are like, it's desperate, it's desperate. I'm not saying the scene sucks, not, but just the act of it is desperate.
And here's the sucky part. The thing you're doing as a desperate move is the thing we've been talking about since 2019. Bring the X-Men in, man. Just bring the X-Men in. We've been waiting. Like, you already got rid of the Avengers because of Endgame. Cool. Bring the X-Men in. That's who we really want to see. Bring the X-Men in. And for all the reasons that we don't know about contracts, or like sort of like how that Netflix thing is, you have to take 2 years and not producing anything. Whatever the case is, you couldn't bring it in. But because you couldn't bring it in, and you were so high in your own supply that everything up until Spider-Man Far From Home and No Way Home, you were just knocking it out of the park. You're like, oh, we can't do anything wrong with Marvel. We got this. And
Yeah,
now you're realizing you don't.
of
You need a
course.
plan. You need effort. You can't just walk around thinking you got just because you're King Dingling, nothing's gonna be bad. It's you. When you fart, it stinks. So now maybe you don't fart in front of in the public. You just fart in the corner and you come back out like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" That's what I'm saying. So you're doing a thing that everyone said you should have done 3 years ago,
Yeah, it is.
4 years ago,
Yeah, and the damage in themselves. The
and
brand is being damaged. Because listen, and I think there's more movies coming out, and I worry about those Thunderbolts and Captain America. I have concern because those. Let's assume they start a fresh slate now. Fair enough, right? And they can right the ship. Okay, no problem. But the stuff they've done, that's all part of the crap regime, right? And that stuff coming out, like with Aquaman now, right? It's just what it is. If you want to make an equivalent, yeah, DC's got James Gunn, new direction, but Aquaman's still coming out, which was made in the prior regime. That's why I see these films very similar fashion. They were done before. Yeah,
I see what you're saying, and I can agree. I feel like
yeah,
Marvel's version of
Marvels, and,
Aquaman
yeah,
too.
and
It's just
a
something from
couple
the
coming
last
out. They're still coming
regime.
out. Deadpool with the exception because it's something on its own for the most part. I have that feeling, but that just hurts the brand. It's hurt DC like crazy. It just hurt them. It has because
It
we
really
do what we
has.
like, but nobody wants to go see it. They don't care, right? DC,
Yeah.
it's just the reality of it. And all these bad ratings and low box office. It just speaks to that. So let's see. But yeah, this Marvel is gonna be. And the embargo lifts the day before the film comes out. That's not good. You rarely see Marvel do that. You rarely that's not
Right.
good. There's not even. I got word. There's no screenings for this film. That's not good. It's just. I mean, this red flags.
That's a problem.
It's a land. It's a landmine.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, pick it where you step. It's just shit. Bad production and this leaks and bad trailers and bad box office predictions and no screenings and the day before embargo. That's not good. It's just at all signs point to shit. I have no
Yeah.
faith in this movie at all. I'm not saying it's gonna be horrible, but I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be
Right.
good. I really don't.
It's not
It
going to be
really
the
isn't. It's
best
gonna be
Marvel
maybe
movie.
one of the worst
That's
movies in recent history. Um, oh man, here we go again. Let's bring this up. Blade. This part I love, and this again goes back to the story on variety
when
where
I
we
read
talked
this.
we had talked
Yeah.
about in the show we couldn't release, but it's been fire writers, two direct. It's been a mess, and here we go again. It's gonna be announced 2018, 19, whatever it was. This might come out 2025 at the earliest, so that's like 7 years between the announcement. That's a long time. So we got a little more details potentially on one of the scripts that was done, and which is ridiculous. And this is one of the reasons why Mahershala Ali almost left the project. Where I guess one of the scripts, I don't know, one of the earliest rewrites, I don't know which one, they didn't mention it, but the first, second, whatever. But I guess the story was going to center around three women. Story one point, here we go. Morphed into a narrative led by women filled with life lessons. Blade was relegated to the fourth lead. The fourth lead. The movie's called Blade. Why the fuck is he not the lead? It just baffles me. Like how did this happen? And I learned executive Kevin Feige was mad and fired him fine. And they talked about that in the story too. But why is Kevin Feige? Why did it wait so long? Why did he not put eyes on this earlier? Right? The script was done. It's not like it was a surprise. Here we go. I don't get it. What the fourth lead?
Can I tell you? Look, Marvel, since the writer's strike is over, let me fix Blade for you super fast. Now the world is in a drug crisis of a drug that's based off vampire DNA that's turning people into Renfields. So now you have people who are becoming addicts, like meth heads, working for vampires. So now they get not only getting places where they can drink all the blood all the time because they're these drug addicts, so no one cares about them. But now they're using that to overtake criminal empires and cities and deconstruct human society. So Blade has to do it's Death Wish or like any kind of 80s action movie where we're going after like the drug kingpin, but the kingpin are vampires who are selling vampire-based DNA drugs. Boom, and that's your intro to the vampire world.
Hey,
that's it.
Simple.
And then your stinger is Dracula is the head of the global thing, and he's like, "Oh, I want Blade." Done. Yeah. That's it.
Simple.
It's so easy.
I don't know how you get three women and life issues in Blade. I don't know how you mix those up. I really don't. I don't understand that. I just it baffles the mind. Someone thought that would be a good idea. I don't get it. I don't get it.
If you want to save money, all the vampire kingpins, their drug warehouses and production are all in abandoned cities in America, so like Detroit or like North Dakota. It's all these random places, so it's away from. So you get to do any kind of big action thing, and you pay so little. Like it's so easy, dude.
Which they need
just
to.
Think for a second.
I mean, it's a fourth lead. That's just really. Unless your first lead is Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, and then him, fine, I'll take that. But you're calling it Blade for a reason.
The third lead should be Deadpool, not Hulk. The third lead should be Deadpool, and then that.
Yeah, whatever. But you know what I'm saying, right?
Sure.
Other than that, I don't understand. And now I heard that they want to stick to budget at $100 million. It's pretty ambitious. It really is.
Listen,
it's doable, but that's
Deadpool
not easy.
Deadpool had 80.
It did.
Deadpool at 80, so it's doable.
It's doable, but that's not easy. It's not an easy ask. So
no, it's not easy. Just doable.
So that it just puts more pressure on the new director or whatever. I mean, but this is indicative of what's going on in Marvel. It was a disaster. It was just a disaster. This slipped through the cracks or whatever. Feige had no idea. He's got to fire somebody.
That's crazy. That's the part that it drives me insane.
That's what I'm saying.
Feige had no idea.
I mean, come on, man. You're the head of the studio. I'm not saying you have to read every line of the script, but perusing the script maybe.
Read the outline.
Exactly.
Read
anything there. Outline. I mean, I don't understand. And again, it's been 5 writers, so it's happened several times, and I just don't understand. And it just goes to show it's just too much on his plate. Marvel's been a disaster. The plan is
here's I hate to say this, but Feige is also the chief creative officer for Marvel Comics. And the reason why is when Feige wants to do something in the movies, he says, do this in the comics. So in 2 years' time, roughly, we can farm that idea into the movie. That's great. But you also have all these other comics that exist that have all these ideas.
Of course.
So take like one idea that you want, one idea that pre-exists, merge them together, movie, done. Like it's what are you doing?
It's like you have all these. The stories are there. You mine from these stories. You adapt them from all these. How many runs of comics and Secret Invasion was? I hate to go back to the well, but that's one where you had the source material.
Yeah.
Right, which was highly regarded by many fans, right, including yourself, and they botch it. It's crazy. It's crazy to think, well, why is this happening? Because we're so used to MCU running in all cylinders, just like clockwork, and then now it's a disaster. So listen, it's bad.
And let me just say this: fucking make things connect already, can we? Like let's stop being like, oh, it's its own isolated. I don't care about the own isolated world. I want connections.
Yeah. MCU is about connections. That's what they built.
That's what makes it fun. Right. It's a connection.
They built,
so give me connections. Don't give me like a random poster that is seen in the background of like 3 shows. I don't give a fuck about that. I want like, do you hear what Iron Man said in the news? Spider-Man's kind of a problem. Like that's what I want. Give me that.
Yeah, it's amazing, and they've reached DC level. They really have. And who would have thought that? We never would have thought that 2 years ago. Never would have said those words. And I don't think. It's hard to make an argument against they're like DC now. They are. at least how DC used to be or was or whatever.
The
But
the
they reached
problem
those
is
levels, right?
that
For the most part.
I think it's they got high on their own supply. They got really
Yeah.
into their own ego and thought I
They
got
don't want to do too
this,
much.
and
They
no,
want to do too much, and they forgot what worked. And it happens.
yeah,
It happens. But is this correctable? Of course, right?
we have not passed the point of no
No, no,
return.
listen, yeah, I'm not. We're not giving.
Right.
I'm not giving as much shit as I give them. I'm always saying, listen, things can change, and so I just wish, like I said, just do a reset. Take a couple years, just reset this thing. It's fine.
But
It's just
here's
come
the
back
good
strong,
thing
man.
is that now we all know that Marvel knows they dropped the ball. That's the only saving
No,
grace. Is
exactly
they're
right.
self-aware enough
Correct.
to go,
Absolutely, yeah. And this is the
oh,
time that, yeah,
we screwed up.
make some tweaks. Do what you got to do. I know these movies are coming out. Probably won't be as good because we want to put them towards the old regime or whatever. The old way of doing things, I guess. But now let's move forward. And again, which is why I say I don't think they should move forward. They can't just start over. It's okay. You can start over. No one's gonna care. People might probably welcome change and say, you know what, let's break. We'll come back with Fantastic Four and we'll go from there. Whether it be Doctor Doom or whomever, or Galactus or whatever the case is. Forget Kang and whatever.
What if you made Kang the longer term villain?
You could.
So you introduce Kang
could.
and know that he's always in the background, but now you're dealing with a more immediate villain, and then you can do the Kang further down the line.
Like much further, like reset that maybe that part of it. That's a good idea, and just
because remember, he's the emperor of time at the end of time, which means you don't have to do him now because he's the end of time.
He's always there.
Time later, he will always be there.
Yeah, he's always gonna be there. So I mean, I know they're not gonna do that. I really wish they would, or at least maybe change the slate, move Kang Dynasty, move him out a little more, and put him a few more films in there, and 2 or 3 movies a year at best. Best.
No more than 3.
No more than 3.
More than
and
3.
Really, I think 2, maybe 2 shows. 2 and 2 would be for me the ideal point.
We've talked about that. 2 and 2 is a
sweet
spot.
spot. Beyond that, they just can't rent it in.
It should be
at best.
A TV show in the winter.
Yeah.
A movie in the spring. A movie in the summer. A TV show in fall.
Yeah, if you do an extra film, fine towards the end of the year. It's not every year, but that's the way it goes, right? And go back to Marvel. Marvel used to be event films, right? You get after Iron Man got popularity, it was like 1-2 a year, and it's like, oh man, everyone's watching. Now it's so many. It's inundated with superhero stuff because everyone, of course, DC now Sony. Yeah. It's too much stuff going on. A lot of
I feel like I didn't explain myself properly. It should be TV show spring, movie summer, TV show fall.
Correct. There you go.
Winter.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Like a May release and like a July release or whatever. Figured out and then whatever. But I think that's the way they need to go back to that, where now it's special again. Now it's like, oh, I can't wait for the Marvel films, as opposed to another Marvel film. You got 4. You're getting 3 or 4 next year. It's too much.
If you're getting 4 movies a year, that means 4 every quarter, 1 every quarter. That's too much. You're diluting the thing that makes it special.
And now
there's a reason why people stopped watching 80s action movies, because they all became the same type of movie.
You talk about fatigue, right? That term has been thrown around, comic book fatigue, which we've heard for years, and maybe now it's finally coming to fruition, right? Because it's just the natural order of things, right? It's like you're hearing that because you hear that song, it's a great song, but if you have the 50th time, you're tired of this song. Where's the new song?
And that's the problem. It's only fatigue because we've done this version of superhero. Give us different versions of superhero movies.
Change it up.
Then you won't have fatigue.
Absolutely, change it up. And again, because this is all as an industry together. Now we got DC with 4 or 5 films. Marvel, it's 8 movies, 10 movies, or something. It's just it's too much. It's too much. It's like who cares? Like another superhero film. Whatever.
Yeah.
So like I said, I still got hope. They got a lot of work to do. They really do. And I hope they clean this up. And you're right. I like that. There's a good point you brought up. And okay, now the self-realization that's out there. We know, okay, we effed up. Everybody knows we effed up. Now it's time to correct. Course correct. It can be fixed.
That's the only saving grace of this whole experience. Is like, it's not like we're all freaking out and Marvel's like, we're good. Like, they're like, no, guys, we have a problem.
They know. Now they can't deny. It's out there. It's out there, and they can't say, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. We all know the story now. But varieties, they're an incredibly respected publication. It's true. They can, and they're not coming out saying it's not true either. They haven't come out and said, no, the story misinformation. It's okay. They're just bending over, taking it like a man, and let's go.
I don't know if you saw the cover to the Variety article, but it's a drawing of the Marvel characters and the audience is walking away from them. I would have preferred that more if that was on the mug of the tea that Kermit was drinking. And I'd be like, Maddie, you spilled some tea, sir.
Yeah,
I
oh my
appreciate
God.
all
So
this.
we'll stay hopeful,
So,
but it's going to take time. If everything thinks next year is going to turn around, you got nothing coming. It's not. It's going to take a few years, and that's okay. That's okay. You know, hopefully DC turns it around, and by the time DC turns it around, maybe Marvel's back on top. We're all living a good life at that point, as far as I'm concerned. But let's go to DC. Let's change gears a little bit here. Let's talk a little Doom Patrol, which we got one episode left. We talked about it, episode we couldn't release,
I know.
where I think the third episode was one where it was more akin to what we've known and grown to love from Doom Patrol, right? With the musical visit, which
Yes.
is great. I
The
think there's
musical
been two more
episode.
since
Right.
then. We
Yes.
talked about, was it gonna stick the landing? This is the finale. This is the season finale, series finale. Sorry, you gotta
Yeah.
stick that
Series
landing.
finale.
And I know we
Yeah.
talked about. I think you had mentioned you would rather have seen them resolve everything now in this last episode, going to epilogue or whatever kind of thing, where it didn't quite hit that mark, right? It still hasn't resolved that. So how do you feel
No.
about
No.
that?
I feel like they listened to that episode we could have released and they applied it backwards. They're resolving all the emotional issues before the climactic fight, and now they're going to the climactic fight. I would have liked the climactic fight, and then an issue. The last episode is then
Yes, I couldn't
addressing
agree
the
more with you.
emotional
Yeah.
issues. But that I understand why you want to do it that way, because you want to go off on a high note, because you're gonna end. So you're gonna be like, listen, we usually space out our budget to do this, but now that we're gonna money, and you're finally gonna get, and I don't know what it's gonna look like, but you're finally gonna get that Doom Patrol fight you've been wanting in the most abstract way possible. So enjoy that. I'm okay with that. It's not the way I would have
Agreed.
wanted it. To me, this last season of Doom Patrol should have been like the first 7 seasons of Game of Thrones, where the big action episode is the second to last episode, and then the last episode they set the tone for what's going to come on next. That's how I think they should have done.
I'm afraid
But
two things are gonna happen. Something's gonna get rushed. The climax of the story,
Right.
or the emotional impact and
that's a
sentiment.
concern.
Someone's gonna get shortchanged. And
Right.
you're right. Because I really like this last episode. Man, they'll hit those emotional notes and setting that up. It's really good. And okay, now we know his characters. Timothy Dalton came
Timothy
back,
Dalton
and
came back.
the connectivity, the whole time thing, and how he hurt his back, and interesting. I like that a lot, right? And so now it's like, okay, what's left? Besides the resolution, the climax was gonna be cool, and the fighting. You're right. That should have been done now. And so that doesn't mean it can't end well, but I think it's gonna take away something, because I don't want them to rush through the emotional part. The big action scene takes 30 minutes and get 10 minutes of resolve, and that's it. I don't want to see that. I really don't want to see that, because if this was a season finale, no problem. No problem. But it's a series, man.
But a series
man.
finale.
We love these characters. We want to see them go off in a certain note. So I hope they can pull it off. They're going to shortchange everything, shortchange the climax. Give us a quick 10 minutes. Fine. Okay, fine. I'm okay with that, if that's the case. So don't prolong that, because we want to wrap the show up. We really do. And only proper send-offs is the right term I'm looking for here. Because you've got big fans of the show, man. I have been. I know you have too.
This has been one of the best DC I've been seeing since DC got into the TV movie making business proper. James Gunn's Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, and Doom Patrol have been hands down my favorite projects. Like Blue Beetle's in there, but top 3, it's these. And 2 out of 3 of them is very James Gunny, and Doom Patrol is
its own
unique,
thing. Yeah.
magnificent
really
monster,
really
and I love it.
Like I always say, it's not for everybody, and that's fine. But it's definitely a niche thing. I've been loving the show. I mean, like I said, I'm concerned about the ending, though. I gotta be honest. I gotta be fair. The ending is concerning, but I'm not saying it's terrible. But let's see. We'll talk about it next week. But I'm fingers crossed that they kind of end as well, because I like these characters, and there's a lot to munch on with the emotional aspect of the show and the characters and their arcs and where we're gonna go with this. So let's see. Loki, one of the few positives here of Marvel. Let's be honest, right? We talked.
Thank God for
Loki. And I'll full disclosure, we got some issues with your screen here, but I'm thinking, Kevin. I wasn't. The last episode was okay for me. It wasn't. I think it was the weakest so far. It was still good, but it was the weakest so far. I liked it, but I should have been a little bit shorter. I feel like they kind of elongated the episode too much. It's a minor complaint. Don't get me wrong. I still like the episode. Now we're We got one left, right? We talked about what Kang, and last episode was, I think was Kang in? He was in it. I'm getting confused. And I loved how that
Well,
fourth one.
Victor
I love how
Timely
that
was in
fourth
it.
one ended. Right, it was like boom, TVA gone. You're like, wait, what? Okay, where do we go from here? Which is probably why I expected more of this next episode. But whatever. It can still end well. I am a little concerned because I gotta see it to believe it. But giving us a good ending, right, with Marvel. Let's be fair. They haven't stuck the landings a lot with the shows. I'm hoping they do, but this is the show is gonna do it because it's been really good, man. I've been really enjoying the show, man. It's
First of all, I want to give a shout out to the internet because after episode 4, when Victor Timely became Time Spaghetti, they nicknamed him He Who Lomains. Thank you,
that's
internet,
pretty funny.
for being
That's pretty
awesome.
funny. Yeah,
That's
that's good.
just
Yeah.
mwah,
Bravo. Yeah.
really
Yeah.
enjoy
Chef's
that.
kiss there. Yeah.
Uh,
Love it. Yeah.
Weirdly enough, I feel like Loki, story structure wise, is paralleling a lot of Doom Patrol. They saved the emotional resonance episode for the second to last.
Correct. Yes.
They
Yeah.
did a lot of like, here's their origins. This is why we should care about them. That who we met aren't essentially who they are, but there is a core aspect to each of them that have survived in their TVA version.
Right.
So I thought that was really interesting. But I went the other way. I thought episode 4 was great. I love the aspect of like time and the multiverse exploding, and then Loki being at his wit's end, finally pulling the classic power move where he upgrades himself. He learns, I can try. I know kung fu is basically at the end of this. Like I know how to time warp on command now. And the thing that makes me, I know you said that this was, I this is the one I brought up. It was more the emotional resonance episode and not the resolution. There is something that they've been establishing through episode 4 and episode 5, which I'm a really big fan of. So Marvel Comics right now, this is where I get to Nerdsplain. Marvel Comics right now, Loki is not considered the god of lies or the god of mischief anymore. Okay. He's now the god of stories. And if you notice in episode 4 and 5, whenever Loki and Sylvie talk, they are all talking about story. What is your story? What is your even Ouroboros says, he goes, in science it's how, but in fiction it's who or why.
Yeah, good point.
And so he's talking. He's a writer who's explaining how stories work. Sylvie and Loki are talking about, who are we really doing this for? And do we create our own story? Do we create our own past? And I think this whole series, not only is it going to set up the Kang Dynasty or the Secret Wars, it is also going to set up why Loki becomes not the king of mischief or the god of mischief. He becomes the god of stories. Especially now that he gets to time warp and travel and time slip, he's going to dictate how things happen and rival He Who Remains. He's not changing entire multiverses, but he will change the narrative of how things play out, so you see things from a different perspective. He will dictate the story. That's really interesting.
That really is.
And so I think that's what this is going to go, is to set up for that.
Yeah, I thought,
which is why I like the episode a lot.
No, that's fair. That's fair. It's not a terrible episode. Don't get me wrong.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, this is why maybe you felt like it wasn't strong enough, and I'm having a deeper read into it, is because I see, like, they're doing the God of Stories narrative. And so this is going to be his upgrade, his power level transition, which makes it really interesting, because now Loki becomes an equal to He Who Remains, Kang, multiverse, because multiverse, things just happen. But if you are the story creator, you create the narrative of why things happen. And so if you're controlling fiction, you control realities.
Interesting.
And that's a really interesting angle to go for. So that's what got me excited. Really enjoyed
it. I'm very hopeful. I mean, and I've heard, obviously, that this is going to set up, like, Kang Dynasty is going to set up, I guess, the Kang we're going to see, I guess, in the future or whatever, in the future films. Well, maybe not the actor, but at least the character. Just saying, maybe the character. So I'm curious how this ends and what they do with this. This is a big one, right? Because this is like we talked before. This is probably the only show or film coming out this next couple of years that really relate to what they're trying to accomplish with Kang Secret War and Secret Wars.
It has a lot of work to do.
Right.
There's a
This
lot
is
of
going
work
to do
to
all
do.
the heavy lifting because these movies coming out, we talked about, whatever, right? They're just there for whatever reason. So this is the one, right? So if they fail here, that doesn't bode well. If it succeeds, let's see. But even this succeeds, not a lot of people watching as much, which is disappointing to hear. But it's going to be a long time to get the fruits of the labor what this show does, right? Because next year, nothing's coming out next year that really has anything to do with the Kang thing. It's not Thunderbolts and it's not Captain America, whatever. It's not. And the TV show's coming out. We know Echo has nothing to do with anything. Let's be honest. I doubt Agatha Harkness is, and I'm not sure what else is coming out. I think X-Men animated, but that's animated. So I don't know. I'm curious. I'm just, like I said, it's just, this is unfortunately going to get lumped in with all the crap that's been going on in Marvel in terms of the lack of planning, right?
Right.
If you set something up, you need to follow it up with something. I just don't know if the follow up is there, right, to reinforce it. And that's the problem. As good as this may be, okay, where do we go from here? We're gonna get Deadpool, which is gonna be great, but its own thing, like Guardians was.
Right.
Thunderbolts, whatever. Captain America, whatever. There's nothing there to say, oh, let's piggyback of what Loki did and let's push forward. And that's what I'm talking about. We're missing that, right? And it's not there. You just, okay, we gotta wait 2 years, and that's my big issue, right? And I hope if this ain't like shit, then maybe that's probably a good thing. Okay, if it is bad or whatever, then course correct. All right, fuck it. Guilty as charged, Jonathan Majors. Let's move on, scrap it, and go to Doctor Doom. That's not too late. It's not too late.
Right.
But listen, it's good. It's been a really good show, man. This has probably been overall better than the first season. First.
Yeah.
I think it started as strong as the first one did, but it's ending better than the first one is. Well.
And I got to tell you, on a strictly technical level, I love the film lens quality that they're filming the whole show in. It's got that Stranger Things 80s sort of like
grainy feel to
sheen,
it.
texture grainy. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Love. Maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's just because I like that. It reminds me of films I grew up with. I love that.
It kind of mirrors, the chaos is going on. So nothing's clean and clear cut.
Right.
I like that. It's a nice approach, a nice touch.
I like it a lot too.
I noticed. I was like, why does it look? At first, I'm like, why does it look like shit?
I never thought it was like shit. I go, I love this texture.
No, you're right. I thought it was, sometimes streaming the connection's a little off and it takes a little while to get,
okay, I see.
It's funny. A quick little funny story before we sign off here. So, I put on the last episode of Loki, and for some reason, I didn't realize it, right? When it starts off, it's a scene from Avengers Endgame, from the very first episode of Loki, right? They're showing that. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I guess where I end off, maybe they're going back to the beginning or something. I don't know. The whole scene where Loki disappears initially with the Tesseract. I'm like, okay. And then they go, he's in the desert. I'm watching like, okay, they're showing a lot from the first episode. All right, I'm watching it, and he gets hit by what's-her-face, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is the fucking first episode. I'm like, oh my, I paused it and it said episode 1, season 1. Like, oh my god, no wonder. I'm thinking that they're doing something cool here, going back. They're gonna change. I'm like, okay, whoops. Whatever. It was late, man. What can I tell you? So I'm like, where is it? Here's episode 5. Never. I'm like, I kind of like where it was going too. Oh, we're going back to this. Okay, cool. All right.
Like they're doing a spot for spot recreation of this episode. Like, right, well, I wonder what's going to happen next.
He's going to change, and he's going to change something in time there. Okay, well then there we go. That's my mistake because I'm an idiot. That thing, I Kevin Feige my viewing experience of Loki. So, with that, those are the nuggets for the week.
Lesson learned, guys. Don't try to nerd late at night. It's going to mess up your brain. Do it when you're bushy-tailed and bright-eyed. Guys, that has been the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate all the love and affection you're giving us. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe here at the Let Nerd Network on YouTube. You can watch shows such as Nerdsplaining, The Watch List, Fantasy Choice, and other shows coming up as well. Don't forget, if you like the show and you want to watch our earlier audio episodes, you can go to ericdasilva.com, ERICDASILVA. You can check out all the original audio episodes and buy my album, Adorably Offensive. I will be on the road soon again. I will be in Rochester, Minnesota, December 8 and 9. Keep going to Eric DeSilva to get more information for that as well. Don't forget, you also, if you are a parent of kids and you're all nerds, or you are a nerd, or you're a middle school kid who happens to be like nerd comic books and stuff like that, I have a book coming out called Danger Squad. Spells like it sounds. DangerSquad.com. Bunch of stuff. Don't forget to sign up for the mailing list. We'll be making some announcements pretty soon on that as well. Trust me, sooner than you expect. And also, we're releasing now promotional parts of Chapter 1 through Webtoons and Tapas and Global Comics. So if you are that, look up Danger Squad, 3 exclamation marks in the back. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, those things as well. Don't forget to hit us up on social media. We have at Nerdsplaining Pod on Instagram, at Nerdsplaining _ on X. We have so many things that we're always putting out. Don't forget to let us know what you thought about this episode, what are your takes on it, what you prefer, what you don't like. We'd love to talk about all that. Guys, that has been the show. I have been Eric Da Silva. This has been Jose Romero. We have been Nerdsplaining. And if you don't know, now you know. Boom.